Hi everybody, it's Gwen from Proof of Africa. Today we have the chance to meet with the Empowa team. They're gonna explain us a bit what they're doing, and we're gonna try to have a question so they can explain in detail what are their vision and what they would like to implement in Africa. So perhaps before you guys introduce yourself, perhaps you can give us like a short explanation of what Empowa is, and then we're gonna dig a bit deeper into it.
Sure, thanks, Ben. Empowa is a platform. It's a platform that we're developing in order to enable African communities to improve living conditions and create wealth, which is the objective.
Okay, so super short. So like it's really like stick to the point. No, like it's really like about empowering people on the ground. Okay,
precisely. Yeah, precisely. That's exactly. It's in the name.
It's in the name.
It's in the name, and the whole objective is to enable communities on the ground to be able to uplift. We know it's got to be at the edges, that we have to build it from the bottom up, that wealth has to be built from the bottom up. And this is a mechanism, and property is one of the foundations of the building of wealth. And therefore, we're trying to enable communities to build properties in order to create wealth.
Okay, so like now we have this little start. Perhaps you guys can introduce yourself, because we have the chances the first time that we have like a lot of people from a team, so it's also good to see like the different people who are involved in a project. So perhaps we can start with ladies. I think it's how we do. So perhaps Marie-Odile, if you want to start.
Thank you, Gwen. My name is Marie-Odile Zanders. I'm part of the delivery team of Empowa, and do that in the position as co-founder and director of an affordable housing development company in Mozambique, one of the poorest countries of the world.
Okay. Phil, perhaps.
Yeah, hi. So Phil Lewis, I'm one of the co-founders of Empowa. Came to this project due to, I guess, my technical background in building large software platforms, and just love some of the vision that Glenn put forward. So was happy to flesh it out and see what we could actually build to create real empowerment.
And now Glenn, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, co-founder of Empowa. I come to Empowa through a fintech background. So I have a background in fintech, and then in terms of trying to look at wealth creation, looking at multiple mechanisms of wealth creation, trying to do it through fintech, and realizing that we actually need to integrate technology and practical. We have to integrate the real world with the virtual world in order to create wealth and uplift living conditions. That's the only way we're going to do it. And how best can we do it? And that's the joy of the tech, is that it enables that and can support that. But there has to be hard-nosed delivery on the ground in order for that to happen.
So it's like, so yeah, if I will understand, so you, Marie-Odile, is more focused on actually building stuff on the ground. Phil, you're the tech guy who's gonna like bring the platform to enable people to do that. And you, Glenn, add this background in fintech, so like all the financing part, or like how to help people to create a value. And
yeah, and going to translate, so to translate the language between the two.
And so it's really interesting, because being in the space for few years, months, years, the thing is, like, often it's difficult to have projects who onboard from the beginning a team with different skills. It's often like one person having an idea, one or two person having ideas, but it's always difficult, I think, to gather like a team with like the relevant experience in order to be able to deliver. Because like it's one thing to have the idea, something else to deliver. So I think it's really good that you guys already have like this team with all this skill set. So now that we know a bit more about who you are and what you're doing for Empowa, perhaps we're just going to take a plunge and just go. I'm going to let you explain us a bit more in detail what you want to do and how you want to do that. So perhaps, yeah, just tell me a bit more about Empowa and what are actually the issues that you would like to address.
So yeah, good. I think the biggest challenge, as we know in Africa, is there's a significant lack of infrastructure and backlog, and most people assume that that is a function of poverty, and it's not. Generally it's a function of structure and invalid structures and invalid capacity. Often there's insufficient capacity. One of the great challenges is within housing. So there's a backlog of 50 million housing units. 50 million housing units in Africa. So that means we have so much work to do. It's unbelievable. In fact, the other day we were just chatting and I said, if we manage to build 100,000 units a year, which is a significant development, it'll take us 500 years to address the backlog. So that gives us a sense of the scope of the challenge that we have. But one of the challenges to that, why is that? It's structural. So a lot of the time, the structural challenges, why invest in Africa? If I've got capital and I want to invest into a property project, and the choice is an affordable housing project in Mozambique or a shopping center in Berlin, guess where the money is going to tend to flow. So as soon as we start to talk about affordable housing, it's long term. It's the money's tied up for a long period of time. It's high risk because you have country risk, you have currency risk, you have all of these kinds of risks. So it's incredibly unattractive. On the ground, what that does is it means there's often a lack of delivery. So the financial institutions themselves don't have the capacity to deliver, which results in a lack of demand, which results in a lack of supply. So it becomes a vicious cycle. So to give you an example, in both Nigeria and Mozambique, it's 1 in 50,000 people have a mortgage. So in a country like Mozambique, it's 30 million people and there's 600 mortgages. Now, and then exactly. And then in Zimbabwe, the interest rate is the mortgage rate is 45%.
45%.
Yeah. So now put all of that together and you just realize, how do I build a house? So one of the things that happens is, and you see it all over Africa, is incremental housing. So people build as they can. So you get a plot of land, you start to build, run out of money, wait a bit, get some more, build. So all over Africa, you see these, unfinished buildings, unfinished houses. And so our objective is to find a way and a mechanism to address that. How do we make it attractive for capital without being extractive from people on the ground who can afford at least? That's our biggest challenge, is to get the money flow in and out in a way that's attractive but not extractive. And we keep emphasizing that because often with capital and supported projects, they're often in the traditional finance structure, they're extractive. So microlending as an example, it's not unusual to have 30% or 50% per month on the ground. So again, it's just incredibly extractive because it's high risk. It's all of those things that we know in the traditional financial sector. So our challenge was, how do we do that? How do we find a way that enables us that money to flow, that attempts to overcome those constraints? And I think that's the exciting part of Empowa, because with the new tech, with new ways of thinking, new ways of doing things, we're actually coming up with that model. And that's what we're wanting to test. We've developed a new model that we think can work. We want to build it, we want to implement it, we want to test it, and we want to get it out there. And Maria is sorry.
No. It's like just one thing I wanted to come back. It's really important what you say about there is the vision we have in the Western world about what's the situation is in Africa. But like when you explain to people that actually it's not that the people are not able to build or don't want to. It's just like there is barriers. And as you say, of course, it's going to come to the head of everybody. If you have like a 45% interest on your loan, it's going to become a bit more difficult. So it's all this little thing that we also need to explain to the people, saying that those barriers are actually, we can go over it. It's like now it's the state. I think there is a lot of people who profit from it as well. It's
Yep.
like actually the disruption of this is not, there is a lot of work and it's not going to be easy, but it's not impossible. And it's not like it's Africa, it's always been like this and it's always going to be. So there is
And I
actually
think
something to do on it.
And I think some of the other ways that have been attempted to overcome these barriers, like charity, has been one attempt to assist and get over that barrier. It hasn't been sustainable because, I mean, 50 million backlog, you know, that's a lot of charity, you know, and so you know, we want to put something in place that doesn't rely on charity, that it's, you know, people who are going to help break those barriers. It's not just about, I want to give that money. You know, there's more to it. There's actually feeling like you're part of helping people achieve that, rather than just, you know, throwing money at it.
Another really important point you just said, and it's so in a former life I used to work for like developing projects in Africa, and even if it comes with all the good means from governments, and when you help people and the charity way, which means like, okay, we give you what you need, I think that we are lacking this. We're going to help you to design and to work for yourself by yourself. And I think this is really important, because then you are in a mindset of like, okay, because it's Africa, it's going to be hard for me, so I'm just going to ask for a little bit of help and it's going to be done for me. And I think it's, for instance, in the Western world, when you want to launch a new business or something, like you need to show that you're able to do it. Otherwise, people are not going to help you. And I think that also starting to implement this in Africa, because we know that people there are as able as us to create things that are designed for them, for their market, for everything, instead of saying, okay, you should do that. No, we're going to help you to do that. And I think it's
Exactly. It's about enabling with tools. That's exactly the objective.
Exactly.
How do we support that? How do we support what's happening already?
Yeah. And let's not forget, even poor people, I don't mean the widows and the orphans, you know, the poorest of the poor, but the working poor of Africa, of which Africa has many, have resources, but there is no offering to them to invest in, which results, as Glenn was referring to already, to the majority of Africans, if affordable housing is not offered to them because of the enormous market failures, they will do it by themselves. And it's incredible the amount of investment and lack of wealth creation that is ongoing in that process, because it often takes so long to be done. I just wanted to stress and add to this discussion also that we're not naive as Empowa and the delivery partners associated to Empowa. Africa has big challenges. Empowa has a big dream and vision, but we ourselves as Casa Real show that a different way of getting more affordable housing to people is possible. I say also that these people can contribute, and what better way to have them literally vote on what they would want and really not only engage as beneficiary, but engage as a risk-taking partner also, and help define the process. Well, if they contribute by paying, then a lot of things suddenly become clear. You know, if your delivery mechanism is fully funded by charity and it's done for the people, then failures are, you know, are hidden through that process. But if they actually put in their own money, you see that the offering works, and it helps also if let me make it more specific with Casa Real, and also show how we and how that can then work for Empowa in getting the money in the right way to people. when we started Casa Real 3 years ago as a social enterprise in Mozambique, first of all, our lawyer had no clue what social enterprise was. When we said we wanted to reinvest our surplus into the next project, he kept asking us if we were really sure we wanted to do that. So we're registered as a company, otherwise you cannot attract financing and etc. etc. There are other impediments. But we have a social focus, getting money, delivering housing for people with incomes from $250 to maximum $1,000 income a month. Before we started, only 1%, less than 1% even, of Mozambicans could access a house through the formal delivery system, through the companies. So what you see in extreme in Mozambique, because it's such a poor and badly governed country, but what you see actually throughout Africa is that the formal housing development is only for the elite, for the top 1 to 5%. And then there's some money thrown about with charity, but that doesn't have the impact required. So what we started doing as Casa Real is building like people build themselves, incremental building, one room at a time, but in a more organized and structured way. And also getting all the permits sorted out in an efficient way with the local municipality, which often, if you engage with municipalities, if you're poor and powerless, that can also take a long time. So that resulted in the offering. Before we started, the cheapest house on the market was $50,000, and we've managed to bring it down to $10,000. And people, because remember what I said about people voting whether they really want this solution with their money, people standing in line for such a house. But that was one bottleneck cleared, having the house more affordable. Then the other issue was mortgage financing is extremely expensive. The base rate in Mozambique is 20%, and then there's the margin of the banks. So we were lucky enough to find a like-minded bank who's interested in the business. They weren't doing it for charity. They see the market, but they saw the market failure. So they thought, if it can be delivered in another way, then we will engage. So through to all kinds of adjustments in their offering, they also brought their mortgage rate down to a certain level. And in addition, we've added a lease to buy model. Anyway, I can talk much more about it, but it's also, there are all kinds of documents reviewing that on the website. The result was that access to finance is now already cheaper to our clients. So the supply and the demand was improved. And in that way, the exciting thing is that without any subsidies, because let's be clear also, a lot of in countries and with badly governed countries, subsidies result in a lot of clientelism and a lot of corruption. So our model is without subsidies. And through this way of working, at one point I engaged with Glen, and we've been very honored to be chosen as the pilot location for Empowa. And I started off by saying that people have so limited options, they have to build themselves. We've shown that through a social enterprise, through a developer structure, you can build at a certain price. The challenge is still, there's very few entities in the world wanting to invest in this due to a whole host of reasons, of perceived risk and lack of tools to really invest in for them small ventures. And we haven't touched yet upon if Africans will build the 50 million backlog currently and even keep constructing on the many Africans that are still being added to that, the impact that will have on the environment currently, because of the completely dysfunctional supply markets also, you know, people for themselves, and we also as Casa Real, is still way too expensive. That market needs to be developed. There's a lack of ideas, but also affordable environmental solutions. So we have another partner in the mix, Easy Housing, and our first pilot will be an environmentally and more sustainable solution, even a CO2 negative house type. And we as Casa Real are going to test that literally on our site and see what the market response is and how affordable it can be constructed also. I've spoken a lot, but
No,
these are messages from the field.
no, no, it's really important, and there is a lot in what you said. Uh, One of the thing again is like involving the people in constructing the things, because I think it's not a problem specific to Africa. It could be in any country if like you don't, let's say, like, I'm not sure it's exactly the term, but if you don't have the skin in the game, somehow you're less involved. It's like, okay, if it doesn't work, it's gonna ask for somebody else. And if you really are invested in something, I think that it gives more passion to the project, and I think it's important. And once again, like what you said about, like, even so, I'm not an economist or a financial guy, but like just with simple math, it's like if there is like 1% of people who take a loan because it's too expensive, perhaps if the rates are lower, they're going to be more people, and then at the end of the day, they're going to be the same amount of money, if not way more, for also the banks. And because, as you say, we also not should not be naive. It's like, it's not because it's Africa that it's not a market, and like people, if they invest in it, they expect a return. So perhaps you can add a little bit of social on top of it, but they're just not all going to do it for free. So it's important to show that it works. And I think that if I will understand, your idea is also to develop pilots to show that it works, and then it's easier to onboard more people.
Exactly, and that's exactly the whole thing, is to support projects like Casa Real at scale, because there are projects like this all over Africa that are happening. They're good people doing good things on the ground. How do we find them? How do we support them? How do we stimulate them? How do we onboard them? You know, those are going to be our platform challenges, but that's the objective, because this is what we want to prove works, obviously with Project Zero. So we want to show that it can work, because we know that it works on the ground when you work with the right partner. We actually know that, but we want to prove it. What we want to prove is because with a platform, the development of a platform is manageable, because effectively it's internally focused. We know we can deliver, get good people, good developers, good systems and platforms and base that we're building on with Cardano. We know we can deliver that. Well, it's more manageable. There's risk, but it's more manageable. Outside of that, on the ground, there's delivery risk. And as Marie-Odile says, there's lots of delivery risk. So what we want to do is prove that we can do that there are people on the ground that we can support and demonstrate delivery. And then we can start to deliver that at scale. And then, as Marie says, one of the biggest challenges is, what about the environment? If we deliver 50 million homes, what's the impact going to be on the environment? So we have to start building the foundations of that now too, to support that, to start building supply lines, get suppliers, start getting interested parties to start to supply into this market and to build those markets as well. So it's really ambitious.
Well, it's also about investing in that technology so that it starts to gain traction, and the economies of scale will bring the price down. Because obviously the challenge right now is an environmentally sustainable building approach is expensive. Naturally it's a more expensive approach. But as with everything, as with all new technologies, the price comes down as you start to scale it out, and more competition, other people doing the same thing. So by investing in that technology towards a sustainable, environmentally sustainable building techniques, it'll help also bring that price down.
And I just have a little question about like the techniques you would like to use for this construction, because like it's a big thing worldwide about like sustainable buildings and trying to do, and I've seen a lot in different countries. In France, for instance, we have been in the after World War II needed to build a lot of things for people, and so it was like those squared, like kind of Moscow style buildings to put a lot of people in, but it's not really sustainable because it's not it doesn't fit the local weather or whatever. So you also would like to develop it like locally with the local techniques, or if you're just interested in this.
Inspired by the best of what's now available in markets that, relative to Africa, function. I know that here in the West we still have a lot of complaints about things that could be better in this field, but compared to Africa, where there's no innovation or rarely, not beyond the demo phase. So we use the best from Africa, but then really embedded, as I said. The really exciting thing I find about this collaboration between the Empowa platform and deliverers on the ground with a good and sustainable business model. This is not charity, but at the same time also creating the right level of impact. I mean, I'm not here to add to the elite housing that is already there. But then immediately not to bring in, and Gwen, you said you had some experience in this sector and worked in Africa, not to bring another, Western idea and then it becomes another white elephant in Africa, but to really from the get-go put it forward, like developers in the West do the same with these model houses, and get feedback on the ground. And I think one issue we haven't overlooked yet is that clients, as I call them, they're clients, not beneficiaries, because they put in money, our clients, they pay for everything at the end of the day. The biggest issue we've actually had to overcome, apart from all the financial challenges and setting up a new business in Mozambique, is gaining trust.
Yeah.
Because these people, they're people like you and I, and if we've been deceived too often, and if we're burdened by poverty because they are poor, you become distrustful. So it's about, and also, but now we do, because we've been 3 years on the ground and really shown that, and I can show some pictures later on, that we really construct, and it's of quality, and it's, which is very important in Mozambique also, it's cyclone resistant. Because not only do we want to contribute to the environmental challenges, but a lot of African and in other developing countries, the communities bear the brunt of the disruption of climate change. So they want to know if it's quality. Otherwise, they're not going to put their hard-earned money. So that's the beauty of this collaboration, that this theory, these thoughts, we can immediately put to practice. And if it's enabled via a platform as Empowa, which is, I would say, a more democratic and a shorter route of getting money from one way to the other, one point to the other, then you can go much faster, and that's needed now.
I think it's good because it's a perfect transition to the next topic, which is about actually what blockchain, and especially like Cardano in our discussion, was like, what can it bring to actually ease the whole thing and support this activities?
So, I mean, the vision that we're describing with the Empowa platform is, I guess, to, like we've said before, get people to invest in helping fund these projects on the ground, but not through charity. It's essentially something that they'll get a return on. This is a piece of an asset that can generate income through rent, and that can come back to the original investors who helped fund the building of the project in the first place. So the way that our idea for how we're going to do that is through NFTs. So obviously everybody who's been in the blockchain space knows how NFTs are going crazy at the moment. But we're not really trying to FOMO into the NFT space. We actually want to put together some NFTs that maybe change the paradigm a little bit. And it's not just about, well, here's a bit of art that we're selling, and we're going to use that to fund this. What we're actually asking people is to contribute a fraction of the total cost to actually build this. And the way that that will be represented through that NFT is through some empowerment scores. So we're actually going to say, well, your contribution to the creation of this building, you know, it's empowering women because this is a woman who's a landowner, and so we're going to empower her to have some property. It's maybe empowering the community through the additional income that that person's getting is going to go back directly into the community. But then, like I said, some of that rental income is going back to the NFT holder. So if they're interested in the financial return, then great, they're still going to get some financial return. But we want to try and build a culture around the platform of, you know, social value rather than financial value. So, you know, if you do get a financial return, then there's going to be incentives to maybe re-empower that back into the platform through some other mechanism.
Sorry, it was muted. So like, I actually, if I will understand, blockchain is going to ease one thing. It's like traceability of everything. And so like, and the NFTs would be somehow like shares of what is being built, right?
Essentially. The one very important distinction is, and this is obviously a lot of people are looking at NFTs as maybe fractional ownership of real estate. So it's important to realize that that's not the case here. The people who own these NFTs do not have an ownership of the building, the property. It's a fractional ownership of the potential return that will give, and obviously the empowerment that it will give. And so we're actually wanting them to think of it more like a collectible. So why do people collect NBA Top Shots or, you know, other types of collectible cards? You know, what's the value to them? There's no tangible physical value. It's not like gold that you can, you know, actually say, well, I've got this many ounces so I can sell it. It's a social value. You know, society has decided collectively that we believe these NBA Top Shots or these Pokemon cards have value. And so we want to take that idea and actually say, well, there are other socially agreed values that we want to put, and that's empowering people. That's a socially agreed value that we all want to be a part of, hopefully.
And okay, now it's actually clear, and perhaps also one thing which is going to be easier with blockchain is enabling this traceability. You can somehow more easily on your side, guys, saying to people, okay, the amount you invested, it helped to create this or that, or and I think it's really important, as you say, in like the acceptance, or like the people to have the willingness to, if they understand what they're contributing to, it's because I think it's always the problem or difficulty. When I pay my taxes, I'm happy to pay it because I know it's helped to do things. But what exactly? If I knew it exactly, I think I would be even, I would like to pay more. If I give to the Red Cross or something, they are doing good job. But to be honest, I have no clue of how my contribution is used for.
I think that's a key part, Glenn, and I think that's the blockchain, the joy of what we can do here. And it's very much what we, our ambition is to really link the stories, is to really link the people. That's the community. That's why we talk about empowering, and we talk about it as a community, because we want people, because just what we've been talking about here from the start, few people understand the issues that other people on the other side of the world are faced with. How do we, how do we connect that? If you understand that and you connect somebody straight to that, it becomes, I'm attached to that. I'm engaged in it. I'm vested in the outcome. That's what we're wanting, is to create communities that are supportive on that basis. But I can see that. So I can see exactly where my money's gone. I know what the impact is. I can directly engage with that impact. That becomes meaningful to me. And that's very powerful as part of that Empowa process.
Yeah.
And it's key to the success of it. We're very aware of that. And that's very much what the focus is in the drive.
And it builds on that idea of a collectible. I mean, why do we collect things? Because we have an emotional connection to them. Why do I take a photograph when I go on holiday and have that, up on my wall? It's, I've got an emotional connection to it. So if we build these stories around how our contribution has empowered people, And we're trying to think of all these different ways that we can bring the story of that empowerment journey, because, you know, we're talking about, you know, a transition whereby the landowner will engage in this process and they will take full ownership of that property 10 years later. Well, what's the story of that 10-year period? You know, and we can build some really rich storytelling processes. You know, we could even set up live streams for people who own the NFTs to talk to these people, you know, to get their stories one-on-one. You know, everybody's just so excited with all these possibilities that we can come up with, you know, and there's probably things we haven't even thought of yet. So,
and it's important because you know, when I was working in developing those projects, I was really like, I want like to have the best techniques and I was the first one saying, hey, man, like the storytelling, you know, it's like blah blah blah. But actually now I understand the power, because it's not blah blah blah. It engage people, and it's as powerful as being. Once again, you can have the best project with the best people. If there is nobody trusting the thing or being involved in it, it doesn't work. So like actually creating a link between the potential investor or supporter or whatever you call it, and the people who need it on the ground. Like if I will understand why you're trying to design, it's like it's really 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 important, and I think it's a key thing.
It's absolutely, and also what it does is it separates out that discussion, because as soon as we start talking about investment into something, the mindset is IRR. What's my IRR? What's my risk? What's my interest rate? What do I get back? And it becomes that hard functional. And that's what we're trying to create a bit of disconnect for, because it's that mindset that's created interest rates of 45%. So how do we get away from that discussion? So that becomes the more we do that, the less extractive we have to be from a purely financial perspective from people on the ground. So then it becomes, actually, I'm happy to get 6% if I'm getting the story. So if I'm investing in my bank account in Europe and I'm getting 0.1%, and I can get 3% from investing into something like this, because actually everything that I get is so valuable around that, we have effectively been able to reduce interest rates by 42%. That's the power of what we can achieve here by linking this together and creating that storytelling. That's how important it can be.
And to add to this, because it's really important, like what we're doing at Proof of Africa is we are a stake pool. So like we people delegate to us, we generate rewards and reinvest it. So like our fees are perhaps higher than others, but there is still I think we have now like 15 million ADA delegated to us, which is $17 million delegated to us. So it's people that are going to have a slightly smaller returns than to other stake pool, but they know that we're doing things. And it's a little thing with like we're not super well structured, and it's only amongst the Cardano community. So like if you say, oh, you're able to build something that everybody can have access to, that can actually be huge. Because I think that as soon as I think it's like taxes. If you know that what you are paying is used for something good, I think people don't have any problem to pay those taxes. Or in that case, to support a project, even if their return would be a bit less than in another investment, because they know that actually it's doing something. And if you can show that, it's
and that's a critical point as well, is that, you know, we're not just targeting the Cardano community here. So, you know, one of our key I guess important characteristics of the platform is that we want to almost to do it like NBA Top Shots, where somebody comes and they want to buy an NFT. You know, most people who buy those don't even realize that it's running on blockchain, and they're using their PayPal or their credit card, and all these tokens that are happening in the background are invisible to them. You know, so we want to tap into the entire market, not just the cryptocurrency market.
yeah, I think it's something important. What you said is that's something also we kind of forgot sometimes in the Cardano space, because we're super interested in the tech, but like there is a world outside of it. And actually, if you want the things to be used, you need to address to the world and show that it works. Um, and another point is like I'm pretty sure in 5 or 10 years, a lot of things going to be run on blockchain, and nobody knows what it is or it works. Now, like most of the people, they send an email, they have absolutely no clue on from here to there. I don't, it works. So like, so it's the kind of thing we, so perhaps I would like just to continue a bit on, for people to understand what is your plan about like exactly where. I think we started to have an idea in Mozambique, but like where and when do you plan to actually start the activity? Do you have a roadmap in head, or yeah, so some of this information about what's going to be done exactly?
Yeah, we do. We have a full roadmap, and we've called the Mozambican project Project Zero, and we've put a funding application into Catalyst for a number of reasons. One is to demonstrate, as is mentioned, about the risk. So to demonstrate that we have partners on the ground who can address the risk. We have this experience in the real world as well as the technical space. So to demonstrate that and to de-risk it, to get the community on board, to also get the discussion going, to really engage the community. So we've put in a funding application for Catalyst, which is a pilot project within Mozambique, to build 2 homes. The objective is to build 2 environmentally friendly homes, so CO2 negative for the first time, test the market, and to engage that. And so that's what Project Zero is. We also from there, in the background, we're going through the typical startup phase. We're seeking to do a pre-token sale, and then we're going to be doing a token sale to be able to build the platform, to get the resources together to build the platform. And again, one of the interesting things is, as soon as we start talking that it's, what's your tokenomics, etc. The reality of our tokenomics is that we're actually dealing with such a real life issue. The value is, it's almost intuitive, because we're selling more NFTs, which create demand for the tokens, which get invested, and it's held. Then it's been held for that time period until such stage as it comes out at the other end of the 10-year loop. So in fact, it's almost automatic, that process. But that's our objective, is to start building that platform. And as Phil and I are already debating around priorities around that, because we've already getting pressure on the projects on the ground, NFT sales, the platform. How do we audit and validate the transactions? So those are our internal debates.
Glen wants me to build a software platform in 3 months, and I'm just like, dude. I know you want it yesterday. But and look, no, but I guess in seriousness, it highlights the importance of this platform. If we're getting everybody who we talk to about this, they say this is an idea that could definitely work. And so how quickly can we actually start using it? Because I think that's what happens. People get excited about the potential, and it's like, well, come on. Now that you've told me that this is possible, I want to do it now. I'd love to be able to throw 100 people at it and get it done in 3 months, but it doesn't always work like that, unfortunately. So yeah, hopefully we've got a relatively aggressive roadmap as far as actually getting to an MVP, given the potential enormity of what we're describing. But I think it's also very important to highlight the fact that, and this was kind of what Glen touched on earlier, is the tech is not the easy bit, but it's it's the on the ground stuff that is going to be equally, if not more difficult than actually building a piece of software. So.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, on the part of because the platform, as soon as it's going to be created, scaling it up won't be a problem. On the ground, it might be a bit more difficult. Gotta start faster, and then but it's
well, and especially as we move to other countries as well, and there's going to be slight subtleties and differences in different jurisdictions. So we want to try and standardize as much as possible. There's going to be off-chain agreements that have to be put in place. Like traditional, rent tenant type agreements, and landowner. It's a rent to buy model. So while they will be recorded on the blockchain, the getting those right in a legal framework in different countries is obviously going to be important as well.
And I think there is also some, as you said, like the legal part is also important, because We also know that in Africa, some piece of land, we don't really know exactly who's the owner, and so like there is actually it's not as easy as it sounds now that you explain clearly that it's feasible on how like to find the money to build the houses and like to help people to actually empower themselves. But there is still, I guess, depending on the country, some little legal stuff that
We're,
have to be
we're,
taken into
yeah,
account.
we're hoping that we've worked around that process by also having a construction method that means that the housing is easily relocatable if necessary. So if there is a land dispute, because of the lack of real, legal frameworks around land titles, then that original investment that those NFTs have helped fund the creation of that property, it's not completely lost. So hopefully that de-risks that a little bit, that we can move that to another piece of land that another landowner wants to benefit from this model with, and then we just continue, hopefully.
And I think a key part, sorry, Marie.
Yeah, no, just to very shortly, the key issue in affordable housing property development in Africa, the key issues that have hampered progress are the same everywhere. So specifics need to be customized locally in collaboration with local partners. But the reason we as a Casa Real have partnered with Empowa is because we're impressed that both they know the tech side of this whole blockchain and the NFT, but also, which is a new world to me, but also they know enough of property development and the issues to engage with that in an efficient way and choose the right partner. So it gives me confidence in Empowa, because that's quite a rare skill, because there's so little progress in that.
Glenn, you wanted to add something, perhaps?
No, I think Marie's covered it. She's covered it brilliantly.
No. So like I think it's clear, and once again, it's what I said at the beginning, and it's like what is important is like your project sounds like really solid in the fact that okay, the roadmap is clear. Sorry, you have the different skills to do it. You are able to partner like with Casa Real, with people who are on the ground, who know how it works, and like trying to put everything together. And I think it's one of the things which is lacking now in a lot of projects. It's like there is a lot of good ideas, but the implementation is lacking of some skills, or like people wants to do it by themselves. And like surely you are showing now that if you want to do something, building up a team with relevant people and skills is really key point in order to sustain the whole thing.
And yeah, I mean, we a lot of projects in blockchain are solutions looking for a problem. So the fact that at the moment the majority of and we've built out to now 8 people already, and we've not even really got going. The majority of those people are not technical. So it's about understanding that and knowing that we've really identified the problem that we want to solve, and hopefully the solution that we're building around Cardano is going to help us achieve that.
And I think if I will understand also, and it's I think some of people like this is the fact that so you know what you want to achieve, you know what are the problems to tackle, and actually blockchain just is a tool to achieve this. And sometimes we see the other way around. It's like blockchain is the center of it, but actually like no, blockchain is here just a tool, an effective tool to just ease the whole thing and make it possible. But you need to know exactly where you want to build, how you want to build, how you're going to finance this, and blockchain just make a links between all of it.
Absolutely. And I think sorry, Phil, one of the key things around it is it enables us to scale. And the joy of the tech is, what the joy of the tech is, it's outside of the country. So it doesn't become country specific, so that it's not currency specific. All of those wonderful joys of blockchain, that's what makes it so attractive. And that, as you said, that's the tool and the foundation from which then you go, oh, well, this is the tech that makes sense. That's how we've come to it. That's how we come to Cardano, is it's this tech addresses our issues. And that should be the way, exactly, that's the basis from which it comes.
Yeah, I was just going to say as well, I think one of the other things that we haven't really touched on a little bit from an empowerment story perspective is, obviously we've described how somebody who is interested in supporting the funding of these projects can purchase these NFTs and share in the wealth creation that the on the ground people, the landowner, is going to have around that property. But there's another part to the story, and that's if a landowner has built some property and they've rented it out to somebody, then there's the tenant as well. So we actually want to help get the tenant involved in the wealth creation process as well. So it's not just about the NFT owner and the landowner who owns the house at the end of 10 years, but if you've got a tenant who has been a good tenant, maybe they've been in that house for the entire 10-year period, okay, maybe we can find a way to give them a share of that wealth creation. So we've got what we've described in our white paper as what will initially be like an insurance fund. So part of the rent collected will go into a larger pool that's shared across the entire platform to insure against issues like land disputes where we have to move a building from one property to another. There's costs associated with doing that, so the insurance pool will support that. But once we've got past that point, well, that pool of money, okay, what can we do with that? How can we use that to do further empowerment? And it's like, well, okay, if you've got a blockchain record of a tenant that's reliably paid, they've kept the property in great condition, and this is all recorded on the blockchain, then they would start to earn some share of that pool of money. And they could then maybe use that to go off and build a property of their own. So, we're just trying to find ways to, I guess, share this wealth creation process. We talked about investing into technologies around environmentally sustainable construction. So maybe some of this wealth creation can be siphoned off to invest into some of those businesses as well. So there's lots of ideas that we're thinking of. The different businesses that are going to build around this platform as well. Property managers who are going to help landowners manage tenants. People like Casa Real who are helping take suppliers and actually build it on a piece of land. There's going to be more opportunities for more Casa Reals to actually start to get created.
A very powerful statistic that comes from the World Bank research is that every house built creates 5 jobs in the community. So both within the local contractors you use, suppliers, etc., etc. Every house 5 jobs.
Yeah, it's really important to highlight this, because what you are doing gonna empower the people by giving them a roof over their head, but it's also gonna enable a lot of things around, as you said, like 1 house, 5 jobs, and local jobs, which is really super important, because we know the problems with Africa, with all these young people not having jobs, and if we can also and it's always the same thing. If you contribute to the economy, somehow it benefits to normally to most of the people. But this figure is really important. And also thing what you said, Phil, is now you have an idea. You're gonna start with a pilot with some features, and the thing is then you can add more and more and more depending on how it works and what people want. And the thing is the tech actually allows this. You can start with some features and you add little by little.
Exactly. It comes back to those numbers. If we have to address this backlog, we have to enable this at scale. This is we need 1,000 Casa Real to be able to connect to the platform. We need to be able to support 1,000 of them at least.
So I think it's...
Have to clone Marie. Have to clone you, Marie. We need 1,000 of you.
I'm ready.
We have the tech for that as well, I think.
Oh, yeah.
She's a perfect NFT.
Can I just show a picture of our construction team to, if there's time for that, Gwen?
Yeah, sure. With pleasure.
To put some figures to the jobs created. So this is our construction team on our site, building the houses. And these are all young guys from the neighborhood who didn't have or had a different type of income before. So the more we keep constructing, the more we can sustain the jobs to them.
And that's what fires my jets when I see that. For me, it's just brilliant. That's just brilliant.
And we'll be dropping more little teasers like this. So follow us on Twitter. You know, we've already put a few posts up there around a partnership with Casa Real and easy housing. So you know, we'll be dropping some of these things for the community to stay informed, even beyond this interview.
So okay, and what I'm gonna try to do is, or not try to do, I'm gonna do it, is to also in the description of the video to put the links to your website, to your social medias, and all any catalyst proposal as well, all this kind of things. So because I think it's really important that people also see from their eyes. And there is one important thing which when you guys when we discussed the first time, and I've been on your website or had the chance to have a look on your white paper, it's solid. And you know, like, it's, I know sometimes it sounds dumb when I say that, but like it looks that we know that you have been through the process. Like, it's well, there is a structure, and it's also one thing which is important, because like before releasing to people, you also like you have to think through, and you know exactly where you are and where you want to go. And it's one of the things where
many months. Yeah, it's been many months in the prep. You know, we've announced it just recently with Catalyst, but yeah, it's been quite a long time in the background leading to this point. So,
and another key part around that, Gwen, is if you look at the team, if you look at our advisors and you know, key members of the team and supporters, you'll see there a number of people who've been in this space for decades. And you know, we access them and we use them, and we already, you know, they're part of our team, and they really are, they know this, they've been there, they've got the scars. Everybody has had this experience and got the scars. So it's decades of on the ground practical experience, and then now building the technology experience to go with that.
And actually, like, the tech can do a lot of things, but they cannot take the experience the people have on the local market. This needs to be in the team, and the tech gonna ease. But so I think that we covered. I mean, I'm pretty sure we could continue to talk for hours. Actually, I have like more ideas, but perhaps if it's okay.
But we'll have to come back, Gwen. We'll have to come back.
Exactly. That's what I was about to ask you guys. Perhaps try to keep it like to have the big picture, and perhaps in the coming weeks, months, when there is like some milestones who are reached or something, we can continue to discuss. When continue to talk with you, Marie-Odile, about like implementation, and see a bit more picture, or like what's happening on the ground, because I think also people are interested in this. Before closing this, perhaps, I don't know if you have like a last word or something you wanted to say. Sorry.
I think we've covered most things, haven't we?
I think so. I think just, I don't know if you've got anything, Marie, but from my perspective, it's just, you know, this is an ambitious project. We understand that. We really do. We understand that it's ambitious. We understand that there are risks. There's significant risks. There are risks at every level. Our objective is obviously to minimize those risks wherever we can. We're identifying them. We attempt to reduce them. We will make mistakes. This is typical of this environment. Mistakes will be made. There are risks that are beyond our control. Things will go wrong. But I think if we can pull together a community and a team and support that understands that and understands our motivations for making this happen, and we can really leverage this, because at the end of the day, it is a community. That's why we've defined it as a platform, because it's a community that we require at all levels. And it is skills that we require at all levels. And if we all start working towards that, we can really start to address this issue at the scale that we need to. And I think that's the issue.
And yeah, it's true. Like, and in any kind of projects, there is risks. The most important is like to, you know them, and you already have a strategy to overcome those challenges or risks. But I mean, and honestly, the way you describe it, and when you know a bit what the situation is like, yeah, if well managed, and I don't doubt this, like it can only be successful and bring a lot of things to the continent.
Just to that point, a lot of people have said, Mozambique, why are you starting your first project in Mozambique? You know, it's great, it's poor, and that's exactly what we're saying is, when it works there, which we know it will,
Then,
you know,
exactly,
it goes up from there. So that's it.
There's few limitless markets in this globe anymore, but this is one of them. And we know with the beauty is with the tools that Empowa has developed and is developing, one can engage with that market in a different way that can be successful.
So it's like I think that, and I hope that people are going to be excited about like what's going to be next, or like exactly how it's going to be implemented, because I think there is like a promise of like something really big and impactful, and I think that it's what we're looking for. So thank you very much, guys. It was really interesting. I think that I want to have you again in the coming months to continue to discuss it. Thank you for your time. I think it was really great, and great to have like all of you so we can talk about the different aspects. I think it's really cool. Yeah,
thank you for having us, Gwen.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your time. Really appreciate it.
It's like, oh, it's easy. I just have to ask questions. It's the easy part. So thank you very much. I wish you a pleasant day, and talk to each other very soon.
Look forward to it.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See ya.